Welcome to Blackbird Writers Presents. Today, I'm interviewing Laurie Buchanan, who is the successful author of 2 self-help books, The Business of Being and A Note to Self, the 7-step path to gratitude and growth. Welcome, Laurie. Great to talk to you today.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what drew you to write in the mystery suspense genre?
Well, it's a genre that I read. First of all, I love it. I can't get enough of that type of reading. I like the adrenaline rush that it provides. But I had been speaking and at a writers conference in the Midwest, a very well-known one, and not the Writers Institute put on by UW-Madison, but another one. And when you're a speaker at a writing conference, you get the opportunity sometimes to also sit in the audience. And I happened to be sitting in the audience when a well-known female author got up, and I'll paraphrase what she said, something like this: "I sure hope you like the genre that you are writing in, because you are stuck in it. Once you select a genre, that is it." And my heart just pity-patted, because that's not true. We know that J.K. Rowling and Stephen King and Neil Gaiman, Anne Rice, and many others write in multiple genres. And I'm the kind of person, when someone says, "Oh, you can't do this," I say, "Oh, yes, I can." So it started out as just proof to myself that I could do it. And switching from prescriptive nonfiction to being godlike and being able to create a little world and people, I'm hooked. I love it.
Yeah, clearly. And you're so good at it, because you had me with all the different points of view and just leading the reader on. I couldn't stop. I couldn't put it down. So Indelible is placed in the forested, rainy state of Washington at awesome writer's retreat. Let's set up the story for us.
So Pines and Quill is a fictitious writing retreat in the very real town of Fairhaven, a historic district within Bellingham. And if you picture in your mind's eye the northwest part of the United States, there's Washington State. Seattle is Fairhaven, Bellingham is about 89 miles north of Seattle, and it is 22 miles south of the Canadian border. So it is as north as you can be and still be in the United States. And then the coastline there is right where this little town is, Bellingham Bay. Pines and Quill is on 20 forested acres that sits on a bluff that overlooks the bay. And on this 20 forested acres are 4 writers in residence cottages. So we've got Austen, Bronte, Thoreau, and Dickens. And one of them, Austen, is specifically set up to be wheelchair friendly. So every month on the 1st, when a new set, 4 people, writers in residence, arrive, one of them has mobility challenges and will be in Austen Cottage. And then they leave on the 21st. So they're there for 3 full weeks. And then the last week of the month, the owners of Pines and Quill, Libby and Neil McCullough, they take that opportunity to clean everything, get their shopping done, maybe fly down to San Francisco to see Libby's parents. And then they come back the 1st of the month. It starts all over again.
Yeah, I loved the writer's retreat. I wanted to go there. I really do. It sounds wonderful. And also Libby is the sister of the main character, Sean McPherson, or Mick. He's your protagonist. And so tell us a little about why his backstory is so important.
So 5 years ago, in book time, 5 years ago, he and his partner, he was a police officer, Sam, they were in their police car on a Friday night. It was the last night that they were going to be partners as police officers together. Monday, they were starting as homicide detective partners. And they were very excited about it. A call comes in over the radio. They're close. They say, "We got it." and they head toward this location, which is on a freeway in San Francisco where there's an overpass. Little did they know they were being set up. There was a sniper on that overpass. The sniper took a bullseye shot at Sam, the driver, and it wasn't specifically Sam, he was just after a driver. And the purpose was to clear that station house. They needed to have an officer down call, which meant that basically everybody comes out and leaves their posts. And they wanted to get into lockup where there was $10 million of heroin. So that's the backstory. Every day before they started their day, they would pull straws to see who would be the driver. And Mick is so heavily burdened with survivor's guilt. If only I had drawn the straw, because Sam was married and had children. Mick was married but no children, and so he feels like I should have died. I should have been the one that was killed.
Yeah. Yeah, and it comes across very strongly. He's a great character. He's compassionate and smart, and also so in this thriller, you also introduce Jason right away. Tell us a little bit about that character.
He actually ends up, we find out later that he is the person who was the sniper, and he is a minion for Giorgio the Bull Gambino. He's a crime boss, and this crime boss has some locations, and he worked for him. And Jason is, I reveal almost from the first turn of the page who the bad guy is, and that is what differentiates a mystery from a suspense thriller. In a mystery, the person who's reading the book doesn't know who done it until the end. In a suspense thriller, what makes it suspenseful and thrilling is the reader knows right from the get-go, but the characters in the book don't. So as you're reading, you're like, no, don't open the door. That's a bad guy. No, close the window, whatever, because you know who the bad guy is, but the characters don't. And that's what makes it so fun to read and so fun to write.
Right, exactly. I know you and I has similar devices in our books.
Yes.
Yeah, so I love it. There's a lot of other memorable characters who inhabit your book at the retreat. There's Neil, and thank you for pronouncing his name, Neil and Libby, and they're the owners of the retreat. There's also a bohemian psychic, and she's a forensic intuitive, and there's some others. I'll let you talk.
Okay, so Libby is Sean's sister. She's 15 years older, and her husband is Neil. Neil is a phenomenal cook, and he does all of the food there. He's phenomenal. She does the Tai Chi, and she also helps people with their writing. Then this month's guest, happens to be the month of May in Indelible, is Cynthia Benton. She's a forensic intuitive. She's there writing a book. There is Fran Davies. She is there writing a book. Her husband recently divorced her because she has some fertility challenges, and she couldn't control that. Right. And so now anything she can control, she does with a vengeance, because he's just totally dismissed her and she feels broken. And so anything she can control now, she does. And then we've got Emma. Emma is our mobility challenged person this month. And Emma has transversemyelitis. And we don't know, is it permanent? Is it temporary? She is cute as a bug's ear. She is feisty. She's a potter, and she's there. And she is, when Mick first sees her in the airport, she rolls toward him in her wheelchair and rolls right into his heart.
Yeah, well, because he had that experience too. Yes. He was paralyzed for a short time. And so explain the transversemyelitis for our watchers today.
So transversemyelitis can come upon people, male or female. It can be something that is built up to, or something that happens overnight. And what happened with Emma, she, as a potter, she was with her best friend. Her dad and brothers were gone, or they would have done the heavy lifting. She had gone to a big pottery show, and she and Sally, her best friend, had humped all of this heavy pottery boxes in, back out. The weekend was done. They'd ordered Chinese food, had it. She woke up in the morning and she was paralyzed from the waist down. And the doctors, you know, at first they thought, oh my gosh, did you have a mosquito bite? Did you get, you know, Legionnaires? Did you get, you know, this? And they traced it down to transverse myelitis. And they didn't know until time passes, is it permanent or is it temporary? But she is saying it is temporary, and as such, she moves. She doesn't want to have anything go wrong.
Stuck.
When she brushes her teeth at night, she forces herself to stand up, and she leans against the sink and then stands as long as she can, and then catches herself. She's working those muscles.
Yeah. Now, is that something that you had to research?
I actually, before I took my shingle down, I was a holistic health practitioner, and I had a client who had transverse myelitis, and that was the first time I'd ever heard of it. And so I was able to call her, and I did my research online too, but really talk with her a lot about that in depth. And hers happened to be permanent. We'll see what happens with Emma in the book.
Yeah. Yeah, you've also infused your story with great descriptions of Washington and the Northwest. Have you traveled there or other places that you like to write about?
When I was 15, I ran away from home and I went from San Diego up to the Pacific Northwest, and I was along the Columbia River. And originally this story was going to take place in Vancouver, Camas, and Washougal along the Columbia River. So when I was there a couple of years ago to speak at Right on the Sound in Edmonds, Washington, my husband, our dog Willa, and Willa is the model for Hemingway in this story. She is an Irish Wolfhound, Old English sheepdog. We got in the car and drove there. And after I did my speaking engagement, I wanted to do like 100-mile radius deep look into the area. And when we hit Fairhaven, Washington, it was like for both of us, like coming home. It just clicked. This bay, the bluffs, the people, the food, the forest, the cleanliness. I knew instantly when I saw the bay and the cliffs, I am relocating Pines and Quill right now.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's see. I have so many questions to ask you now. You talked about you ran away from home, and I mean, maybe that's a story for another day.
That's a story for another day. It's a long story. It's a good story. I was gone for 5 years. I didn't go back for 5 years, but it all turned out well.
Oh, good. Oh, good. And then, so how much of your background do you draw on to write your books?
So having been a holistic health practitioner and transformational life coach, my doctorate is in energy medicine. I've had the opportunity to work with every socioeconomic level, with every spiritual tradition, with every skin color, with every type of person, with incarcerated people, with people on probation, with people who didn't have anything to do with criminal activity, with students, with parents. I've worked with so many people, and so I do draw on personalities, not a specific person, but I will say, oh, I like this from that person and this from that person, and oh, let's not forget that from that person, and
Right.
create a person.
Yeah, I think as writers, we all do that. We take
Yes.
the people that we know, and we populate our characters with those traits.
Yes.
Yeah. So what would you like to say to your readers who have come to expect enlightened help self-advice from you?
So if you were to just Google Laurie Buchanan, the thing, unfortunately, it's not my books so much as the thing that I believe in and my philosophy, which is this: whatever you are not changing, you are choosing. So for years, I had people come to me. I'm unhappy with my weight. I'm unhappy with my marriage. I'm unhappy with my job. Whatever you are not changing, you are choosing. That was the bottom line of my private practice. And I believe it. And then somebody would maybe, let's say that they had an amputation. Well, I can't change that. No, you can't change that, but you can change your attitude.
Right.
You can change your attitude. So I stand by it. Whatever you are not changing, you are choosing. That's what, and even in the bottom line, not said in the books, I say it in the books.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was pretty clear. It was a very clear message to me anyway. But I've got a background with the self-help books too. My mom started up a little new age bookstore.
Oh.
Yeah, back in the 90s in Boulder, Colorado.
Oh.
And so I worked with her, and I got to go to conventions with some of the writers and read a lot of those books back then too. So yeah, I love it. Well, I think that's going to wrap up our interview for today. Tell the readers and watchers where they can find you these days.
You can find the books online anywhere. It's wherever books are sold. My website is lauriebuchanan.com, just my name.com. You can find me there. I have a quarterly newsletter. I don't stalk anybody, I promise. I might have stalkers in my book, but I'm not a stalker myself. So it's only quarterly, not weekly, not monthly. Every 3 months you would get a newsletter.
Yeah. And your book comes out for real?
April 6th.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone. And join us at blackbirdwriters.com for more conversation with Laurie and other mystery and thriller writers. And we look forward to seeing you around. Thanks.